Sunday evenings were sacred for the Johnson family, a time to laugh, share a meal, and forget the struggles of the week. Dressed neatly, with their little boy in a crisp shirt and shiny shoes, they decided to try a well-known restaurant in town. It was a place they had passed many times, but never stepped inside. Tonight felt like the right night. From the outside, the glow of chandeliers and the hum of quiet conversation promised a warm welcome. But the moment they walked in, that promise shattered. Conversations slowed, eyes narrowed. The clink of cutlery against plates became the only sound. The father, Marcus Johnson, felt the weight of every stare pressing into his back. His wife shifted uncomfortably, pulling their son a little closer. From behind the counter, a tall white man emerged. The owner. His jaw was tight, his expression cold. He didn't greet them, didn't offer a smile. His eyes traveled over them in a way that said they didn't belong. The room seemed to hold its breath. "Sorry," he said finally, voice sharp. "We're full tonight." Marcus glanced around. Half the tables were empty, but he knew exactly what this was. It wasn't about reservations or space. It was about the color of their skin. What Marcus didn't know was that before the night was over, the same man who looked at him with such contempt would have no choice but to face him again. This time with desperation in his eyes, they came for dinner. A father, mother, and their little girl, dressed in their Sunday best. But the moment they stepped inside, every conversation in the restaurant stopped. The white owner didn't ask for their order. He didn't even look at the menu in their hands. Instead, his voice cut through the silence. "We don't serve people like you here." The humiliation burned, but the father stayed calm, guiding his family toward the door. Then, a scream from inside. Someone had collapsed. The room froze. And now, the only person who could save a life was the man they had just thrown out. The moment the Johnsons stepped inside, the soft glow they'd admired from the street seemed to dim. Conversations at nearby tables faltered. A few heads turned, eyes narrowing just slightly before turning away. The hostess, a young woman with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes, hesitated. "Do you have a reservation?" she asked, her voice carrying an edge that suggested she already knew the answer. "No, but we saw you had open tables," Mr. Johnson replied warmly, nodding toward the half-empty dining area. Her smile thinned. "It might be a while. We have policies." Mrs. Johnson glanced around. Table after table sat vacant, yet the hostess seemed determined to keep them waiting. The little boy shifted uncomfortably, clutching his father's hand. "Mama, can we sit?" he whispered. After a strained pause, they were finally led to a small table tucked in the far corner, away from the large windows and main dining area. The chairs wobbled slightly. The tablecloth was creased. It wasn't the spot given to guests the restaurant wanted to impress. As they opened their menus, Mr. Johnson noticed the waiter approach another family who had walked in after them, a white family, and guide them to a prime spot near the center. Drinks and bread baskets followed within minutes. 15 minutes passed. No water, no greeting from a waiter. The boy fidgeted, his stomach growling audibly. Mrs. Johnson kept her tone light, trying to shield him from the growing tension, but her hands trembled slightly as she held her menu. Finally, the owner emerged from the back, a tall man with an expensive watch and a controlled, almost icy demeanor. He stopped at their table, his gaze cold. "I'm sorry, but this table is reserved for later. We'll have to ask you to finish quickly or perhaps dine elsewhere. Mrs. Johnson's cheeks flushed. "We haven't even been served," she said softly. The owner's smile was thin, the kind used to mask something sharper. "Exactly," he replied, gesturing toward the door. Around them, a few diners paused mid-bite to watch. Some looked away in discomfort. Others smirked faintly, as if what they were seeing was nothing new. The boy's eyes darted between his parents, confusion clouding his face. "Did we do something wrong?" he asked. Mr. Johnson's jaw tightened, but his voice was calm. "No, son, we didn't." They rose quietly, dignity intact, but the air around them was heavy with humiliation. The walk to the door felt longer than it should have, each step echoing the unspoken truth. They weren't welcome here. Outside, the cool evening air hit like a wave, but it carried no comfort. Behind them, the laughter and clinking glasses resumed as if they had never been there at all. The Johnsons were just steps away from leaving when the boy remembered. His backpack was still inside. Reluctantly, they turned back. The moment they entered, the white owner spotted them. Without a word, he grabbed the bag from their old table and set it in front of him, blocking their path. "You know," he said, his tone dripping with disdain, "this place is meant for a certain kind of people, folks who fit in." The meaning was clear. Mrs. Johnson's eyes glistened, her son's face twisted in confusion, but Mr. Johnson's voice stayed calm. "We came here for dinner, that's all, but you decided to make it about something else." The owner smirked and slid the bag across the counter like it was contaminated. "There's a place down the road. You'll be more comfortable there." A suffocating silence filled the room. No one moved. No one spoke. Mr. Johnson picked up the bag, his eyes never leaving the owner's. "Comfort," he said quietly, "isn't the problem." He turned and walked out with his family, each step heavy with the weight of every unspoken word. Outside, his son asked softly, "Why doesn't he like us?" Mr. Johnson's answer was simple and shattering. "Because he didn't see us. He only saw our skin." The walk to the car was quiet. The streetlights cast long shadows, stretching their silence into something heavier. Mrs. Johnson glanced back at the glowing restaurant windows, the laughter inside, the clinking of glasses, and felt a sharp ache in her chest. They had done nothing wrong, yet somehow, they were the ones made to feel small. At home, their son sat at the kitchen table, still holding his backpack. "Is it always going to be like this?" he asked. Mr. Johnson looked at him for a long moment before answering. "It doesn't have to be, but it will be if people stay silent." That night, Mr. Johnson wrote about the incident online, not in anger, but in truth. His post spread faster than he expected. Hundreds of people sharing their own stories of being turned away, judged, or treated as less than human. It wasn't just about one family anymore. It was about something bigger. Days later, a protest formed outside the restaurant. Not just black families, but people of every race, standing together, holding signs that read, "Dignity has no color." The restaurant owner never apologized publicly, but the Johnsons didn't need his words. They had something far more powerful, proof that one act of injustice could spark a